Dragon Ball is absolutely dominating 2026, and right now, even with Pokemon cards slightly stalling in some areas, Dragon Ball is really going the opposite direction, and it is getting crazy. The amount of comments and questions I'm getting about Dragon Ball is reaching new heights for my channel. I mean, if you just go explore my channel, people are literally like, hey Phil, I'm not even waiting for your Pokemon video. I want your next Dragon Ball video, which I'm grateful for, but as well, that is obviously showing me how much demand there is for this TCG and all of that, whether that's Dragon Ball Fusion World or Dragon Ball Masters. There's a lot to unpack here, though. What I am very, very excited for and to see what's happening with this kind of TCG is the amount of demand that's been built. It's really funny because when I spoke about Fusion World and I actually saw it increasing in popularity, I said one thing, I said, just watch this space because this has the potential to overtake One Piece. And a lot of people got upset with me. They're like, Phil, you are an absolute banana. Why would you even think that Dragon Ball can even stand toe-to-toe with One Piece? Have you seen the prices of Dragon Ball cards? They're garbage. They're nowhere near it. Well, guess what? A lot of that's changed, man. And Dragon Ball is pretty much the hardest TCG to get your hands on right now, even more than One Piece, even more than Pokemon. There is no other trading card that is as difficult to get on release as Dragon Ball. How surprised can anyone really be at this newfound demand? And I'm gonna be showing you some of the prices in this video of what cards are selling for, what kind of sets to look out for at the moment. But the real reason why this demand is happening is because now Dragon Ball has Lifeline in it. You need to remember, with all those TCG booms that happened and everything and everyone was going crazy, sure, Dragon Ball was going good. I mean, like in terms of a TCG, it was doing fantastic with absolutely no Lifeline. You gotta remember, Pokemon throughout this whole period has had, 2018, Dragon Ball went on hiatus. That's when the super anime literally stopped. It was a mess. No one knew what was happening. Since that, Pokemon has had Pokemon Sword and Shield. It's had Pokemon Let's Go and Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu. It's had Scarlet and Violet. It's had Pokemon Legends Arceus. It's had Pokemon Legends EA. It's had so many things happen in that time period. Same thing with One Piece. That's all been continuing since that time. Dragon Ball has had no Lifeline, and right now, as 2026 showed, Dragon Ball Super returning, all these things happening. Well, guess what? With TCGs booming and how strong the Dragon Ball IP is, you better believe it, this is gonna get insane. Right here, I wanna talk about the Super Alternate Arts. Now, I'm gonna be talking in this video about Fusion World and Masters. One thing I gotta say, I don't know why people just have this choice. If you are collecting, I really don't see why you have to have like such a strong viewpoint on whether or not it's Fusion World's better than Masters. I love collecting both. I absolutely love both. In terms of playing the game, if you wanna play the TCG, Fusion World is a much easier entry point, far easier to learn and play. But of course, I'm talking for the collector aspect. I love both of them. But I want to talk about Super Alternate Arts. Now, in Dragon Ball Fusion World, there is something known as a Super Alternate Art. These are essentially the hardest cards to pull. They are incredibly rare, very difficult to get, but of course, they fetch high prices. Now, Fusion World has some Super Alt Arts, but I want to talk about these because, real talk, without trying to add more fuel to the fire, I do want to give my own 2 cents here. And I do think, given how rare these are, I really think that they're in a prime position to be some of the most wanted collectibles in the whole Dragon Ball space in the very long term, especially with a lot of early Fusion World sets. So I want to talk about the Vegito and this is from FBO2 Blazing Aura. To be honest, it's probably the weakest Super Alt Art in the market, and I'm not really that big of a fan of this one in particular. But in terms of how rare it is, I do think the price point in comparison to the other Super Alternate Arts, which I'm gonna go through, and Masters God Res, but right here we can see it was selling in January for $301. And again, when that Dragon Ball hype happened in early January, went up to $400. Right now it's selling for $463. So yes, that is very expensive. When you see the other prices of Super Alt Arts and God Res, yeah, that one actually looks like it's at a good price point in comparison to the others of other sets. I don't know, man. It just, yeah, like the whole thing. One of the big reasons why people love Dragon Ball is because of these rarities. They're really, really difficult. Do I like them? They're cool, but I do think they're also a little bit ridiculous. I think now with this newfound demand, I don't know if they can really continue this God Rare rarity as well, or this Super Alt Art rarity. I think with the amount of new collectors coming in, where are prices gonna go? Because you're gonna see, I'm gonna show you in a second, some of them are selling for crazy amounts, dude, like absolute insane amounts. maybe pull rates need to kind of get fixed on these because they're getting wild. Moving on to Super Saiyan 4 Goku from Raging Raw. So this was selling for $297, $300 card, definitely expensive, but after that boom, that went up all the way to $1,000, has calmed down a little bit, right now selling for $940. But then again, early Fusion World had this really kind of like basic alternate Super Alt Arts, I don't know, this foiling, they look like Yu-Gi-Oh! Ghost Rares in a way. Maybe that design choice also has held their price back a little bit because you can see in later sets like FB09 Dual Evolution, they've changed a lot on how the Super Alt Arts look, and those cards are going crazy. Now moving on to Rivals Clash. This is the Broly Super Alt Art. Was selling for $420, went all the way up to $2,934. Bit of hype there, a lot of momentum, but right now it's selling for around $1,600. But in saying that, with the Broly Super Alt Art, even though it has had a bit of a drop, it still has 4x'd from what it was originally selling for. So yes, there is insane demand. A lot of people want these sets, but of course, how are people going to be adding these to their collections when if you just want to buy one of these raw, it's selling for that price point? Yeah, I mean, it's a new market right now for Dragon Ball, especially Super Alts. Now moving to FBO4 Ultra Limit. This is a really cool one. Was selling for $200, one of the cheapest Super Alt Arts in the market. Currently selling for $788. So I just actually finished the master set of FBO4 Ultra Limit. So my daughter was like, I want to start opening some packs with you. Dad, you make content around Pokemon and Dragon Ball, and we never ever open packs. Like, why haven't we done that? So I'm like, you know what? Let's open some Fusion World. And this was the cheapest booster box on the market, Ultra Limit. And then I'm like, oh, whatever. I'm going to just make the master set of this. And then as I was getting it, I'm like, oh, I probably do need to get this Super Ultimate Art. So I did buy it in PSA 10, which was a ridiculous purchase. I was like, oh, I want to own one of them. I want it in a high grade. Yeah, this is going to be the one because I've got the master set of it. One thing about Dragon Ball Fusion World that can annoy me, and I'll show you a little bit, sometimes it feels like they just like cash it in a little bit, like they don't add extra layers of effort, because the Secret Rare and the Super Alt Art are literally identical. I looked at them next to each other. The Super Alt looks a little bit more flashy, has a bit more of like a holographic pattern, a bit like some red colors around it. Looks a little bit more crazy, but I don't know, in terms of the price differences, I would have thought a more unique artwork or a different artwork for the Super Alt Art. Sometimes Dragon Ball TCG can do that, and you're gonna see another example of that in this video. But moving on to Dual Evolution, this one's insane, right? Was selling for $150, went all the way up to $384, dropped down to $258, and right now it's at an all-time high of $468 a booster box. Yeah, okay, this is, I wouldn't say it's like the Evolving Skies of Dragon Ball Fusion World, but it's definitely the best set outside of the manga booster boxes that we've had. But of course, the prices and everything about that, hopefully maybe more reprints, restocks of this, it is needed. And the newest set is Cross Force, and you can see it was selling for $300. Right now, it's actually at an all-time low for $222 US. In saying that, Cross Force is probably a little bit of a step below Dual Evolution. So here I am on the prices of what we can see of Cross Force, and I'm just on prices high to low, but you can see the artworks are pretty cool. Here is the Super Alt Art Vegito, and right there, like you can see $7,000, and that's what I mean by those super alts. Like I was talking about that Vegito, the earlier one, when you look at it for 400 versus that, hey, I mean, not a bad price, 400 when you compare it to 7,000. You've also got the Cell Super Alt, which is really cool, the famous scene in the anime. And then you've got, again, Son Gohan, the Cell alternate art as well. And a really cool one here is the Son Gohan childhood as well. The artworks have just taken such a big level up in Fusion World, especially since like FB07, I reckon. They've just changed a lot, and now it's becoming like, wow, everyone just can't wait to see what the next one's gonna be. But earlier I was talking about how the Dragon Ball, like the TCG feels sometimes they cash in a little bit. It's to do with this Vegito Super Alt Art and the Gogeta Super Alt from Dual Evolution, and you can see on the screen, I don't know, man, just kind of like how I was talking about FBO4 Ultra Limit with the two very similar Gokus. This to me seems a bit lazy, man. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the design choice. Maybe it's like, oh, they're identical. That to me feels like they really just cashed in instead of giving it a bit more unique flair. Honest with you, I kind of feel like that was a little bit like, hey, could have done a bit more there. Also, by the way, if you have been loving the video, my name is Phil and I create a lot of content around Pokemon, and I do a few Dragon Ball videos as well. Honestly, I'd really love your support on the channel. Feel free to subscribe. All right, now I want to talk about Dragon Ball Masters because I'm a big fan of Masters as well. So if you do know, Dragon Ball has a split kind of TCG, but if you're a collector, hey, you get the benefit of both because you can kind of wait for both TCG releases. Dragon Ball Masters is really cool as well. So right now we can see the latest set that is released. This is Impact Beyond Dimensions. Was selling for $348 USD. Right now at a good price, or kind of like an all-time low of $300 USD. A booster box, which is insane for Masters. Like in terms of new booster boxes, these were dirt cheap, man. Like if you bought this in 2024, you could have got booster boxes for like $70, $80, man. So it's crazy to see like a brand new booster box. This just released as well. Here I've got the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta Ultimate Warrior. Cool as artwork, man. Really good. And yeah, I mean, the prices are decent as well for these cards. So if you do open a booster box and if you get a duplicate or you want to sell some as well, some of these are like, this is the thing why I love collecting Dragon Ball. The artworks are just so heroic. They're so like something about the Saiyans and their auras and how it looks on cards just complement it so well. So with trading cards, one of the big things you want is for cards to feel alive. I feel Dragon Ball it really makes cards feel alive because of that. And you've got the God Rare here of Vegito and Gotenks as well. But then again, God Rares and the prices they get is just ridiculous. If you do want to buy God Rares, I don't know, just like they're nice to have in your collection, but they also are really, really hard to get your hands on and you do need to pay a lot. The only thing about God Rares, like I say, yes, they're an interesting rarity, but I do think with the amount of new collectors coming, they were already, even before this whole boom, they were selling for like $1,500 for a God Rare. That was last year. Now, what are we expecting? Like, that's why we're seeing prices of like $5,000, $7,000 for God Res, or in BGS, like black labels are selling for ridiculous amounts, and even PSA 10s are selling for crazy amounts. That's because there's all this demand, but I just don't know if the pull rates of God Res can maintain with this new audience because they were already selling for insane prices. Now we've got this new demand. If they were selling for already $1,000 when booster boxes were $80, how are you going to get them when they're selling for like, 10 grand? They're just becoming a little bit unachievable. But yeah, it is looking insane. I really appreciate all honestly, the fans who love the Dragon Ball content. To me, it's nice. I like making it. But then again, I do know the Pokemon market is just always knocking on my door. People want that Pokemon stuff. But then again, I have to, the thing about when you run a YouTube channel, you have to also do things out of your soul. That's why I make like a lot of my content on Philip's Trick Room, because it's like, I get to talk about my gaming passion but the thing is also I'm kind of crazy in that way. It's like, if I've got a passion, I want to make a channel about it. But yes, you can also see Philip's Trick Room, talk about video gaming content there, but the Dragon Ball content I always enjoy because yeah, just good vibes. Though in saying that, with all these things happening with Fusion World, I know a lot of people are wondering, hey, what's the difference between Fusion World and Dragon Ball Masters? And should I collect one? But the good news is, if you are interested in the Dragon Ball TCG, you can watch this video on screen here. In this video on screen, I explain the difference between Dragon Ball Fusion World and Dragon Ball Masters. And also this video acts as a bit of a wayfinder for you if you want to start collecting Dragon Ball cards. Honestly, really appreciate you watching this video. Click that video on screen and hey, I'll see you on the next video.